Three, two, one. Okay, so now that we're live on the YouTube stream, I was just saying that our last session began streaming late, and we apologize for that. That was just a technical error. So from now on, we know how to. I know how to do it properly, and we'll start on time. And I did upload the full recording, and I really encourage everyone who is watching the live streams to go and check that out, especially the keynote address with the Sarah J. Abbott, Ken Rinpoche, Logan Rinpoche, which it was very wonderful to hear and really gave a good encompassing overview of our course and the purpose of it, and even a bit of the history of how it came into existence. So that's only the first 15 minutes or so, and then if you, of course, you can watch the whole thing, but I especially encourage you to watch that part. I think the video is still processing right at this moment on YouTube, so it will take another few minutes to finish the full process to be able to watch it, but by the end of this session, I'm sure it will be ready. So we have the stream going and people are here. I think we shall just begin. America, is there anything that you need to address, or we'll go pick up where we left off?
No, I think we're good, so go for it.
Okay, so I'm just going to double check. I also know that my internet cut out right as we were ending the last session, which was a fortuitous timing if there can be one for your internet cutting out. So were there any questions left over? I was sort of asking at the time when I was asking if there were any questions left over is when my internet cut out. So if there's any questions left over, we can spend a minute or two to take some of them now. Just raise your hand and I'm watching, and no hands yet. Okay.
And also maybe emphasize that if at any point you have questions, feel free to raise your hands or pop them in the chat. I mean, we'll explicitly invite questions at various points, but even if you think of questions at any other point, just let us know.
And we'll be making periodic updates, so keep checking in the Slack forum. Now there's a channel created now called Course Updates. So anytime we post something new, have to tell you something about the schedule, about anything going on in the course, we will write it in that channel. Okay, so let's keep going through our document here, which is the structure of Nalanda debate. Let me put the screen share back up. So we have two types of logic questions: the statements of thesis and statement of pervasion. Now, whether you call it a question or a statement, they're not phrased with a question word, but they're meant to be answered with a response. So it's sort of a question, sort of a statement. Doesn't really matter what you call it, but there's the statements of thesis or questions of thesis and statements of pervasion. Okay, moving on. So here we have the bread and butter of debate, the three-part syllogism, and there was a video about this posted in the Day One channel, so I'm sure many of you have watched that. And I don't have much more to add. If there are any questions about it, you can raise them. But here it is. You have a three-part syllogism with a subject, predicate, and reason. That's the structure through which we debate. Again, we use the format of consequential syllogisms when we're actually using the oral dialogue, when we're actually having a verbal debate. The tradition, the logic tradition that this format of debate comes from, namely the Dignaga Dharmakirti tradition, part of the Nalanda tradition, but those two specific authors, and as someone mentioned in the previous session, Bhava Viveka and Chandrakirti, so all these past Indian scholars used other forms of logical statements as well. So there are different forms. We're not going to get into that. So all you need to know is that there's a three-part syllogism. Of course, if you have questions, feel free to bring them up and we'll do our best to answer them.
So I think Vitaly has put his hand up. So
oh,
maybe
thank you.
do you want to ask a question, or do you? Yeah.
Please come on up to the stage.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
I watched the video in the day one, and the person was the person in the first video. It was a monk. He named the reason like sign. Can you just explain why do they have two names and what the point of this name sign for the reason?
Sure. So this can go really deep into an investigation of the Sanskrit word and the Pali word and Buddhist philosophy and logic, and you could go deep with it. I'll just say simply, when we look at just how we use colloquial speech, we use the word sign to mean a reason. For instance, if we're saying, "Oh, there's a guy, he's passed out on the floor. He's unconscious. Check for signs of life." You know, does he have any sign that is there any sign he's alive? So, what is a sign that he's alive? It's an observable phenomenon, something you observe on his body, which indicates presence of his life, his presence of his brain and blood circulation still being active. So it's a sign that we rely on to prove or indicate some other thing, right? We feel there's warmth, we feel a pulse, we see his respiration. That's the sign that he has life. So it's I think that's more or less one way to think about it. So I hope that satisfies the question. If not, please come back with more. Okay. So going back to this, now we're going to go into the different types of answers that are given by the defender or answerer. So the challenger, we just went through their role in those few slides, those few pages. There's two different types of debate and two different types of questions, and when they're trying to prove a thesis, they state a question or statement of thesis, take the subject, an electron, follows that it's an elementary particle, that's a thesis, a defender denies it. And then they come back with a reason, follows it's a fundamental particle because it's a member of the standard model. Then that's a three-part syllogism. Subject, predicate, reason. Now, how does someone respond to that? What does the answer do after someone gives either just a thesis statement, just a statement of pervasion, or a three-part syllogism, right? They would say to a statement of thesis or a statement of pervasion, what they would say is one of two things. I accept or why. I accept or why. This also is in one of the videos that was posted, so hopefully many of you have had a chance to see that. So there's not much else to say here. Again, I accept is agreement. Why is a denial. It's even though we're asking the question why, it doesn't necessarily mean we need the person, the challenger, to give us a reason. They have that option, but it really, in its essence, is just a denial of that thesis. Another thing to really keep in mind is that this system of debate and logic, it does rely on the rule of the excluded middle. So if you deny an affirmative statement, right? Sound is impermanent. Take the subject sound. It follows it's impermanent. And you respond why. That means that you've accepted that it's permanent, that it is not impermanent. When you deny a thesis, you're accepting the opposite of it. There's no third option you could have. It's just how negation works. Of course, you'd be able to debate that, and I'm sure some of you will want to or have doubts about it. So that's good. But in general, that's sort of another one of these rules, and we do have to sort of go by that. So that way you're just not constantly going in circles. Think about it. If you were to have a debate going and you say, take the subject electron, it follows it's a fundamental particle. Why? It follows it's not a fundamental particle. Why? It follows it is a fundamental particle. Why? I mean, you're just going, you can never get anywhere. You have to accept one or the other. Okay. Questioner, take the subject. So those are just the examples there. So now we can, am I moving the wrong screen again? Okay. Oh, I left again. I left the stage. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm working with the two screens. I have to coordinate better. 2 answers to give after a reason. So is it clear we have a process going? You don't have to have a 3-part syllogism every time as a questioner you make a statement or ask a question. You only need to give a reason when you want to prove something. So you just start with the thesis, take the subject, an electron, it follows it's a fundamental particle. End statement. The answer responds either I accept or why. If they respond why, you come back with a reason. Now you've got your 3-part syllogism. You don't have to actually explicitly state every part. This is one of the benefits of debate. It helps your working memory. So you're holding in mind what was said already. For extra clarity and as beginners, it's good to repeat the subject and predicate again, but you don't absolutely have to. So they say, why is an electron a fundamental particle? And you can start again with the subject, take the subject, an electron. It follows it's a fundamental particle because it has no microstructure that's smaller than it. Right? You can say something like that. It has no inner microstructure. You can say because it's a member of the standard model. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not making a statement about the validity of those reasons. I'm just using them as examples here. So what can you say after that reason? So let's use the reason because it has no internal microstructure. Let's use that as a reason. Okay. Now, as a defender, you've already denied the thesis. Now, you can be convinced by the reason that it was good enough for you and change and just say, okay, I accept. That means you have to let go of your original position where you denied the thesis. Now you're accepting the reason was good enough to prove to you that thesis, so okay, fine, I was wrong. And you get what's called a tsa. We'll get into that later, but basically that's just when you contradict yourself, directly contradict a previous statement, then the challenger, questioner, says tsa. And gives a little smack. Not to you, not to the person, just underhand. And then, so that's one case, right? But let's just say you want to hold your position. You still don't believe that it's a fundamental particle. You don't believe that reason is good enough to prove it. Okay, it has no internal microstructure. That's not a good reason. There are 2 reasons, two situations where it wouldn't be a good enough reason. The first one is that it's just not true of the subject. You're looking at the challenger going, are you nuts? Of course electrons have internal microstructures. I mean, they've got spin, they've got, their wave function, they've got, all these different characteristics. Of course that's an internal microstructure. You're nuts. So you say, prove it. Or another way of saying that is the reason's not true. The reason's not true. Prove it. Sometimes you'll see in other works, even some of the ones that we've provided as course materials, they phrase this as the reason's not established. I'm only using a slightly different form because, in my experience, the more streamlined we can get our debate, the more streamlined we can get our terminology, the smoother a debate will flow. So that's kind of just my take on things. And again, this is all open to evolving. But just 2 syllables, prove it. It's just shorter, right? So now we have denied that the reason or sign is true of the subject. The other option is that, well, yeah, I think he's right. I think she's right. Electrons don't have an internal microstructure, but that doesn't really mean it has to be a fundamental particle, right? There are other things that lack internal microstructures which are not fundamental particles. Maybe you could say empty space. Maybe you could say the consciousness. Right? This is all going on what people actually have in their minds as their beliefs. So this is really, you can start to see already how it connects to psychology, because we're talking about individual human beings' actual beliefs. So we're not just like saying you have to accept some, general universal theory that's absolutely true. We're talking about actually talking to a real human being, our classmates, and what they actually believe. So you're going to get different varieties. Every debate is going to be different. So the person who doesn't accept that the electron has no internal microstructure will say, prove it to that reason. The person who believes that, yes, you're right, electrons don't have internal microstructures, but that doesn't mean that there's a necessity that it has to be a fundamental particle. So what they're saying is there's no pervasion. That's just the phrase you say. All you have to say is no pervasion. Take the subject, an electron. It follows it's a fundamental particle because it has no internal microstructure. What does the answer say? No pervasion. It means that if something has no internal microstructure, it isn't necessarily the case that it's a fundamental particle. So here we're starting to use, using a negative, and sometimes you get it like double negatives. It gets a little confusing. So that's one of the reasons why it takes some time to develop the skill of using the language. But this, hopefully this instance is more or less clear. Okay, good. I'm gonna move on to information seeking questions, but just again, quickly to review. To a thesis statement or a statement of pervasion, you will answer one of two things: I accept or why. After a reason is given, you will say one of three things. The first meaning you have to give up your original position, that's I accept. But if you want to continue to hold your denial of the thesis, you can say one of two things: the reason's not true, prove it, or no pervasion. So 4 answers. Now, for an information-seeking question, these are, again, open-ended questions. These are open-ended questions, so the answers can be whatever you have in mind. And these are used, again, for seeking definitions or divisions within a category, and then for seeking the reason that the answerer, that the defender has. So if you, as a challenger, you don't want to give another reason, but you want to just hear, what is this defender who keeps saying ridiculous things? They keep denying my great reasons and saying they're not true. So then finally you just stop and go, okay, well, it's not, using the example that the person is not accepting it's a fundamental particle. Okay, it's not a fundamental particle because, and then the answerer gives their reason. The answerer, the defender or answerer will say whatever reason they want. Not a fundamental particle because it's not a particle, right? It's a wave, not a particle at all. You could, something like that. And I'm trying to use, again, these are like physics examples, but it's actually, you hear when you listen to physics, physicists give all sorts of different reasons and perspectives, and even textbooks have different views on things, and of course there's many different, it's a very diverse field of beliefs. Okay, so that's the end. Good. End of show. So let's go back to stop sharing and let's see if there are, I'll just spend a minute to check for questions. Any question, please raise your hand. Okay, Marco, come on up and let's hear it.
Okay, I have one question. You said the answer, or we have a question, and then if we ask why, we sort of deny that this thesis would be correct. Do I understand this correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have this sort of basically yes, no question structure, right? So either I accept the thesis, or if I don't accept this, I say why, right? But what about this might be maybe a bit too far, but immediately my question would be, what about these so-called tetralemmas, not dilemmas, but tetralemmas, for example, these sort of unfathomable, what they're called in Buddhist cosmology, is the universe limited or unlimited, or is it both limited or unlimited, or neither limited nor unlimited, or such questions? What about these, or would they not be in this type of debate?
So I'll answer your question by referring you to one of the course materials that's coming up. To be honest, I don't remember if it's in the current video that's in day one or if it's in one of the later days videos. But we have the guest speakers. I didn't mention this explicitly, but I hope you all get it, that the guest speakers were presenting their talk. We had interviews pre-recorded and we're presenting them each day of the course that we hope all of you will watch. So one of them, Venerable Tenzin Gache, from one of the Serije monks, he discussed that exact point. But just to answer, just to give the simple, straightforward answer for now, is that yes, we would accept that if you, in the debate system, and even more generally in Buddhist logic, that if something exists, then you can't say it also doesn't exist, and you have to say one or the other. Yeah, you do have to accept one or the other. and for any, yeah, sure. Very good question. And we can, yeah, I don't want to go into much detail about those kinds of statements and what they're, how they're interpreted by the Gelugpa tradition, which is the strongest in terms of the development of the debate practice, but not the only, of course. It's just kind of more as a habit of the way they train in their monasteries, but it's practiced universally across the Tibetan tradition. But they do have a way of explaining those statements such that it doesn't kind of make any logical contradiction. So we can, yeah, maybe if you have more questions, then you can post them and we can try to answer them. Okay, so what we can do now is take a look at the sample. What the file is called Sample Debates and Debate Script #1. And we're going to just look at this pretty quickly together, and then I'm going to have us all get into groups and just practice it, because what we have here is a debate script. And like I said, we're doing this course as a sort of proficiency-oriented learning, so we want to get some experience of this skill of debate. However much we can get in 5 days, right? We have 5 days together. So let's just start it. So I'm just gonna start with the position of the challenger. I'm going to read what's on the script in the challenger line, and then and I do realize that it's not marked clearly for every line which is challenger and which is defender. but we'll just go in order. I'll say, and I know you're all at home or wherever you are, and we're not actually in the same room, but if you just repeat after me and then start. So we'll do it first, just repeating after me, and then second, we'll start doing call and response. So I'll say the challenger's line and you say the defender's line. We'll just do this, it's a lot of pages on here. It's 7 or 8 pages, but when you just start doing it, it goes really quickly because there's very short statements, right? Short, pithy statements. So this is just to get us used to getting these words out of the mouth, training ourselves to start using this language. So everyone has this document, right? I'll do the screen share again. And, oops.
Yeah, and so just to be sure, we just repeat what you're saying, right? And so you're gonna first say the challenger and then the defender and then the challenger and defender, and we just repeat the same thing, right?
Yeah, why don't we actually do call and response, and then we'll switch positions. So I'll start as the challenger, and everyone, wherever you are, you just say the next line together. Everyone say it.
Yeah.
So I'll say, it follows that you can posit the definition of form. And everyone else, you all say, I accept.
I accept.
And then I'll say,
and shall I be the sort of the surrogates, everyone else? So then
Yes.
you can also make sure that we all follow, and then everyone else shouldn't turn on their microphone because then it's going to be a bit of a disaster. But
True, yes.
I will be the guinea pig.
So
here.
Marika will be the voice of everyone, but please do actually say it wherever you are. Okay, and this is again the traditional way of learning this, but when you're learning a skill, you sort of have to practice it. And yeah, that's enough about that. So I'm gonna share this screen.
Yeah, and maybe also just to preview. So in the sort of the next debate session, which is the session 3, that's when we'll also go through this again to practice it, right? To just get the things out of our mouth.
That's right. So in the actual debate practice sessions, which for some of you is today, and for some of you, your first debate practice will actually be tomorrow, but just depends on time zone. But you can use this exact script, and from there, move it into your own debate. Yeah. Good. So here we are. Oh, but let's not forget, how do you start a debate? What do you do with your hands? What do you do with your feet? So Ken Rinpoche had mentioned the clapping the hands and stamping the feet. Of course, traditionally in the monasteries, we will be holding one of these. This is a mala or prayer beads. We don't need that. What we do need, and someone had written this question in the Slack forum, if others noticed or not, I'm not sure, but he asked, why do you do the clapping? Is that necessary? And that's a great question. Clapping itself is not necessary. Some way to mark the end of your statement is necessary, as the questioner or as challenger. So you can be creative. It's often said that the Indians would snap their fingers when they ended a statement or a question. I don't know how they know that. Maybe it's just what modern day Indians do, and I don't really know. But that would be fine. And you could find some other way to do it. But clapping the hands, it does have that added benefit of raising the energy, keeping everyone attentive, right? You can't really start dozing off if someone's standing there clapping their hands in front of you. So I'm going to do it that way and encourage you to try it, okay, when you're the questioner. So I'll do it that way with the clapping the hands. And I won't stamp the feet because I'm sitting down. And just so you know, though, the symbolism, there is some explained with it, which is when you put your hands down, it's as if you're, bringing together the sort of compassionate qualities that are a human potential for a human to develop, the qualities, all the good, meritorious, compassionate qualities combined together with the qualities of intelligence and wisdom. So combining these two, which sort of make a holistic human being, a happy, holistic, happy human being. And then there's other symbolism with when you raise your hand, like you're pulling all the sentient beings, all the living beings out of their suffering states. So that kind of symbolism is helpful to just mainly keep your motivation pure, keep your motivation caring, right? We're doing this practice out of a real earnest yearning for helping people understand the truth, which will help make them happier. And that's to keep in mind. So here we go. Oh, and then we can start in the way that I like to do this. The traditional way in Tibetan is you start by saying Di Chitar Chichen. So that's a foreign language. But what we can say in English is I challenge you to a duel, a wisdom duel. And you can still say the D if you want. D. That's for the Buddhists. You will probably want to say that, knowing that it's the syllable of Manjushri. For non-Buddhists, no problem if you don't say it. Okay, so Marika and representing all students, I challenge you to a duel, a wisdom duel. D. It follows that you can posit the definition of form.
I accept.
Posit it.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as form.
Take the subject, that which is... Oops, I'm sorry. I have to fix... Again, getting confused with the screens, but no problem. There we go. Take the subject, that which is suitable as form. It follows that it is the definition of form.
I accept.
It follows that you can posit the divisions of form.
I accept.
What are they?
Take the subject, external form and internal form.
Take the subject, external form and internal form. It follows these are the divisions of form.
I accept. And actually, maybe as a little note here, this might seem like a little bit superfluous, but this is what they like to do in debate, or what we like to do in debate, is just to double check, like, are we all on the same page? Okay, so you just said this, right? Because, well, once it gets more complicated, sometimes it's also really nice to have that time. And sometimes also it gives you a little bit of time to think when you just repeat something a couple of times.
Yep, so
Sorry.
there is a lot of repetition going on here, and it's for those purposes. Okay, now can you posit the definition of external form?
I accept.
Posit it.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as form and not included within the continuum of a person.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as form and not included within the continuum of a person. It follows that it's the definition of external form.
I accept.
Can you posit the divisions of external form?
Yes.
What are they?
Take the subject, form source, sound source, smell source, taste source, and tactile object source. And maybe also I should make another remark here. So what we're actually referring to here is another text that was shared with you. I think that says collected topics. So that is a particular, phenomenology of forms and colors and things like that. Yeah, exactly that one. That's basically what we're all reciting. So we're not making this up as we go, but this is literally, what would be in the first lessons of debate in a monastery, right?
Exactly. And feel free to tear it apart. That's the point. In terms of its validity or not. Okay, so take that subject, those subjects you might want to say. Take that subject, form source, sound source, smell source, taste source, tactile object source. It follows that those are the divisions of external form.
I accept.
It follows you can posit the definition of form source.
I accept.
Posit it.
Consider the subject an object apprehended by an eye consciousness.
Consider the subject an object apprehended by an eye consciousness. It follows that it's the definition of form source.
I accept.
Okay, good. Now here, I think what we'll do, because to be fair, it's probably hard to just sit and watch other people doing this unless you're really being directly spoken to. And since you're all muted and only me Marika and I are unmuted. Maybe that's easier if we just break up into groups and go and start doing it right now. So why don't we do that? We'll do as before, getting into those little circles, but this time let's just do one-on-one. For some people who, if you're really uncertain, if you're really uncomfortable, more or less uncomfortable, you don't feel like you are ready to try it, you can join another pair and listen and sit and listen with them. And if you're a pair, don't feel awkward if someone else comes to join you. That's fine. So, but try to find a partner, just one-on-one. I'll do the same. Marika, I don't know, Stefan maybe has to watch for technical issues, but if you can, then also we'll come out and do it. And Kenjok is not sure if he's here or not, but if he's here, then he will also. Don't think he's here right now. Okay, so I'll call you back and we'll go through this script as it is, right? So this script goes through accounting debate. It goes through accounting debate up until the divisions of the secondary colors. So when we looked, I hope you all have this document ready and easy to access as well, but you see that this goes through all of these different types of the form source, sound source, smell source, taste source, tactile object sources. So in the script we have here, we don't have all of them written out. But what I would ask to do now, let's do 20 minutes, a full 20 minutes, and start with the script here. Oops, script here. And then just one person recite it as the questioner, the other person as the answerer, and then switch roles.
Yeah, and also if you're a little bit confused, feel free to just, like I did, I interjected Denue for a little bit to just explain, but you can also take a moment after every bit to check the other this collected topics text, so you can check sort of where are you in the tree. Sort of, okay, form, can I see this definition of form? Oh, that's where it comes from. So that it's also, maybe it helps you a little bit to build that mental map of what we're actually talking about.
Yes, and this particular document here just lists everything like our script does. There was another document called, the name of the file name itself was Tarpa's Debate Book, and that actually has these listed in a graphical tree form, which is probably a little easier to find your way around, actually. So if you have that document, and I could just quickly open it so that everyone knows what I'm talking about. And it was I believe page 7 of this document. But I think that we're all basically, okay, not quite page. Okay. There we go, yeah. Colors map. So we have all these just on a map. It's quite nice, right? So that's probably a way that will work better for some of you to look at that version. The only problem, not really a problem, but some of the, I'm not sure if the terms might be a little different just because of translation. I think a little bit different. So that's, again, something we have to just work with, accept. It's okay. So let's do that, right? So let's break out into pairs, find anyone. Just go jump in a circle, and if you see a single person standing in a circle alone, go join them. And if you have questions, then type them into the text box or save them for when we meet up again after 20 minutes. Go through this, do it once with one person taking the challenger role, the other taking the defender role. Then switch, and then that might not take up the whole 20 minutes. So then you can move into some of these other, move on from the colors and go into sounds, odors, flavors, tactile object sources, and continue on in the same format. And if you actually want to start debating something, because I know many of you have experience in debate, then might as well go for it. We have 20 minutes, so enjoy it. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe just as a reminder, I mean, this seems sometimes maybe a little stupid, but this is just there to as a prelude to debate, to get clear on what do you mean with things, so that we're both on the same page. So this is why we're doing this in the larger scheme of things. So okay.
Okay, break.
Let's walk out, and I'll see you outside.
Hello? Do you wanna, can you hear me? I think your mic and video are off. There we go. Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to practice together? I'm just, if there's another person who's still needs a partner, you might want to go with them, and I'll just kind of wander
Okay.
around. But let's
Yeah,
just see.
I was wandering around as well, looking for a partner.
Yeah, I think there's. Let's just see. There's a group over
Malin.
here, which is okay, but we can just do it together too.
Okay.
It's the same. Again, doesn't matter how much experience you have or not, because we're going through a script.
Okay. Okay. No, I have no experience at all
Oh,
in
good.
actual debates. So yeah,
Okay, good.
okay. You've got the scripts, yeah?
Yeah, I
I
have it.
will split my window and get the scripts with me. Hang on 1 second. Collected. Okay, simple debates. Okay. All right. So, are you
Sure, I'll be the answerer, the defender.
okay?
You can start
There's
with
also
the.
Sangmo.
Okay, Sangmo's also here. You can listen in or join, or you can actually. Why don't you
Hello.
two take the roles?
Sangmo Chiwan de. Hmm? Sorry.
Oh, I think it seems like a
Somebody's
weak
frozen.
internet connection. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
If you
we
want to
can
type
start.
something,
We can join
Sangmo.
this.
Okay. If she, yeah, I'm trying. I don't know if she can even hear us. I'll just type to her something.
Okay.
So why don't
She's gone.
you? Oh, okay.
Okay. So, shall I be the challenger?
Yes,
Or you
go
be
for
the
it.
challenger?
Yeah,
Okay. It follows that you can posit the definition of form.
I accept.
Posit it.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as form.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as form. It follows that it is the definition of form.
I accept.
Follows you can posit the definition of form.
I accept.
What are they?
Take the subject, external form and internal form.
Take the subject, external form and internal form. It follows that these are the divisions of form.
I accept.
Can you posit the definition of external form?
I accept.
Posit it.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as form and not included within the continuum of a person.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as form and not included within the continuum of a person. It follows that it's the definition of external form.
I accept.
Can you posit the divisions of external forms?
I accept.
Hmm?
Or yes, yes. Oh, I'm not following my own script.
But yes is not the answer, right? It's kind of out of the norm of I accept and all that, right? Okay,
Yeah,
anyway.
so it's funny, but it's why not, right? We can blend sort
Hmm,
of colloquial.
hmm,
Yeah, so you can say yes. It's
good,
okay.
I accept. Yeah, okay. What are they?
Take the subject: form source, sound source, smell source, taste source, and tactile object source.
Okay, take the subject, form source, sound source, smell source, taste source, tactile object source. It follows that these are the divisions of external forms.
I accept.
It follows you can posit the definition of form source.
I accept.
Posit it.
Consider the subject: an object apprehended by an eye consciousness.
Consider the subject, an object apprehended by an eye consciousness. It follows that it's the definition of form source.
I accept.
Can you posit the divisions of form source?
I accept.
What are they?
Take the subject: shape and color.
Take the subject, shape and color. It follows they are the divisions of form source.
I accept.
It follows you can posit the definition of shape.
I accept.
Posit it.
Take the subject: that which is suitable as shape.
Consider the subject, that which is suitable as shape. It follows that it is the definition of shape.
I accept.
Can you posit the division of shape?
I accept.
What are they?
Consider the subject: long, short, high, low, square, round, level, and non-level shapes.
Consider the subject, long, short, high, low, square, round, level, non-level. It follows that these are the division of shape.
I accept.
Can you posit the definition of a long shape?
I accept.
What is it?
Take the subject: that which is suitable as a long shape.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as a long shape. It follows that it's the definition of long shape.
Of course, yes, I accept.
Then follow the pattern. Okay, so you got to go back up. Yeah.
Color. No, you don't. We don't have to go through every single one. We can
Okay.
continue on.
Continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It follows that you can posit the definition of color.
I accept.
Posit it.
Take the subject: that which is suitable as a hue.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as a hue. It follows that it's the definition of color.
I accept.
Can you posit the divisions of colors?
I accept.
Posit them.
Take the subject: primary colors and secondary colors.
Take the subject, primary colors and secondary colors. It follows they are the divisions of colors.
I accept.
Can you posit the definition of primary color?
Yes.
What is it?
Take the subject: that which is suitable as a primary hue.
Take the subject, that which is suitable as a primary hue. It follows that it's the definition of primary color.
I accept.
It follows you can posit the divisions of primary colors.
I accept.
Colors. Posit them.
Take the subject: blue, yellow, red, and white.
Take the subject, blue, yellow, red, white. It follows that these are the divisions of primary color.
I accept.
It follows you can posit the divisions of secondary colors.
I accept.
What are they?
Take the subject: the color of cloud, which is a secondary color, the color of smoke, the color of dust, the color of mist, the color of illumination, the color of darkness, the color of shadow, and the color of sunlight, which is a secondary color. You can say it in a little abbreviated way. It's so long.
Yeah, take the subject, the color of cloud, which is a secondary color, the color of smoke, the color of dust, the color of mist, the color of illumination, the color of darkness, the color of shadow, the color of sunlight, which is a secondary color. It follows that those are the divisions of secondary colors.
I accept.
Can you posit the definition of the color of cloud, which is a secondary color?
Yes.
Posit it.
Take the subject, a secondary color which is suitable as the hue of a cloud.
Take the subject, a secondary color which is suitable as the hue of a cloud. It follows that it is the definition of the color of cloud which is secondary color.
I accept. And that's the end of this basic script.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I have no clue. No time to think, really. There's no logic, is it, behind it? Is that what you call the counting debate?
yeah, this is what we call a counting debate. So
I
really,
see.
you're
Okay.
just reviewing the material. Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't really have any logic behind it at all. No.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
really
So you
just
don't need to think so much. You just need to memorize. Is that the part?
that's it. Yep. This
Okay.
is to be memorized, and
I
doing
see.
this action of going through the script itself
Mm-hmm.
helps you to memorize it. So
Mm-hmm.
you can of course spend time separately just memorizing,
Mm-hmm.
but you can
Mm-hmm.
also, in your debate itself, that reinforces your memory. Hmm.
Okay. All right.
So
So
we'll
the
just reverse roles and
okay,
go through the script
the
again.
logic, the script, the earlier scripts,
The same one,
or
yeah.
the same one, huh? Okay.
Just to get it kind of going. I mean,
Okay.
what's your background? Do you think you'd be up for going right into a more logic debate? Do
Uh,
you want to try
uh,
it? We can try it.
we can try. Yeah, we
Okay,
can try.
maybe people are more eager to get going into a logic debate, so that's okay.
It has to go a bit slower. Okay.
Sangmo
Okay.
sent me a message, so I'm just trying
Hmm.
to respond to her.
Okay. Take your
Um,
time.
I think I missed it from a few minutes ago, though.
Mm-hmm.
It was sent 5 minutes ago. Maybe she's left it. I'm not sure. Looks like she's having some technical difficulty there.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to check more this chat box. Okay. So let's see. We do have in the script, there is,
Hmm.
um,
But the answers are all there, right, in the scripts itself?
there is a script of a logic debate. Do you want to go through the
Mm-hmm.
script, or do you want to try just using your own logic? You can do either or.
Hmm.
The script
Oh
again.
yeah, I wanted to comment. There should be, instead of just raising hand, there should be something which is good,
Oh,
to differentiate from the good you agree with it versus a
right.
question raising hands. Yeah, yeah. I thought that Trump example was pretty good. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
because
Okay.
it's really so the
Yeah.
logic is so terribly flawed.
Yeah.
I know, yeah,
Uh,
Zoom has something like that. Reaction, right? Different kinds of
yeah.
reactions.
Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Okay, so
So
Sangmo
how?
is trying to contact me again, so why don't I
Okay.
I'm just
Is there
trying
anyone
to
else if
I'm
you're
just
busy?
trying to tell her to go. Well, she oh yeah, you could go meet with someone else if you want. I uh will just direct her
Uh,
to go to Stefan, who is, the main
okay.
tech person. She's
Okay.
actually, I think she's having some issues with her internet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's just keep
Okay.
going here. Okay, so you want to do the scripts, you're saying, right?
Okay. Yeah. We are trying the logic, or we're going back
Yeah.
to the original and
Let's do the
changing
logic
words.
debate, but we can still follow the script.
Yeah.
You think?
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Mm.
And
So, mm.
would you like to be the challenger again, or this time would you like to be the answerer, the defender?
It doesn't matter because we're following script. So
True.
not in the hot seat.
Okay.
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 So why don't you be the challenger and I be the uh,
Sure.
uh
Defender.
defender? Okay.
Defend. Okay, defend with all of your all of your life, put your life on the line. It follows that. So I'm gonna start with the question. I challenge you to a duel, a wisdom duel. Yeah.
Oh, you do that.
The clapping is good too. No, you can do it. You can join in. The clapping is good to get in the habit of too. It follows that if something is the color of cloud, it is necessarily a secondary color. Oh, Sangmo.
I accept.
Okay, Sangmo's back. So I'm sorry that it seems like you're having some technical difficulties. But do you, if you can hear me, Sangmo, do you know where Stefan is? Because he's better at handling the technical issues than me.
I think he said he was going to put himself in this little room at the gate, right?
She's just coming and I think so. I mean, and also, yeah, but she's just coming and going. Her internet must be off. Okay.
Oh, she's gone again, is she?
Yeah, I'll just have to let it go. Okay, so take the subject. You accepted that, right? So take the subject, the color of a red cloud at dusk. It follows that it is a secondary color.
I accept.
Okay.
Take the subject. I need to say this, is it?
No, this one.
I just say I accept.
Yeah,
okay,
you just
accept.
answer.
Right.
So the same subject is there, so don't need to say it again. It follows that it is not the color of a red cloud.
I think I've lost you. It's not color. Okay, why?
It follows it is not the color of a red cloud because it is not the color red.
Prove it.
It follows it is not the color red because it is not a primary color.
Prove it.
It follows it is not a primary color because it is a secondary color.
I accept.
Okay. So, actually, I think I missed, there's some error in the script, but that's okay. So that's probably good because I think our time is up. That was about 20 minutes. So I'm going to go call everyone back. So thank you for helping.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of a technical issue now here. My computer.
Thanks. It's a good practice to loosen the tongue.
Yeah. And it's good, this material, it does kind of require looking over it on your own as well. Just so you get used to it. No, I'm sorry. My computer is like starting to freeze. Okay, I'm free. I can go again. Okay, see you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. I hope you're all enjoying a debate. And we're going to have to come back into the temple within a minute or so. Finish up where you are, and we'll meet back in the temple in a minute or two. Okay, so everyone who is already in the temple, I have, okay. So, did that go well? Who's here? Betty? Oh, I can't hear you, Betty. You're on mute there. You have to unmute yourself first. If you want to say something, if you have any comments or questions, then feel free to come up on stage. Don't even have to raise your hand. Just come on up. Oh, Damsha already has her hand raised. Good. Is it Venerable Damsha? I imagine. I think we have a bunch of people coming back. Do we have questions?
I have a question, Daniel, that maybe we should talk about, which is, do you always clap as the challenger? Because I remember that when we were debating, sometimes like when you were asking for like what are they, then I seem to remember we didn't clap, but maybe I'm misremembering, so I'm just wondering about that.
Normally, when you're asking what are they, you don't clap. That's true. Only when you're stating at the end of a statement of thesis, statement of pervasion, or a reason. Or when you're asking the open-ended questions, but they're, in the phrasing of it follows that you can't, when you're saying it follows or because after those statements. There we go. That's the way we do it. And it seems like it fits, so we can keep it that way. So you can say it follows, you can posit the definition of color, clap. Posit it, no clap. What is it? No clap. Yeah, good point. And you might have noticed, um, just repeating the same thing. Why I accept. Yes, yes. It can get a little repetitive. So that's why we can be a little flexible in the language. You don't have to hold so tight. You can say, yes, I agree, I accept it. Just because English speakers, it's just we have a different habit, right? So saying the exact same word over and over and over again, I think gets a little tiresome, right? Of course, we don't normally really do every single question, repeat it, go to the next point, repeat the whole thing. You don't have to actually do that every time when you're really debating. This is like the very first thing you do when you're just learning what does it even mean to ask a question. Then you have to do it that way. So I see there's a couple people who had questions in the chat box. They're just having some issues, so I'm just gonna address that. Sorry. Okay. Hopefully that'll work. So any questions? I think I saw a hand and then it went down, and now there's a hand. Vitaly has a question. Is that correct, or was that just okay? Come on up. Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I have two questions. First of all, I would say that the clapping actually is helping to end statements, so like it's I finished, so it's okay. But I thought that it can be helpful even for defender because defender could think about or here maybe take pause just to gather some thoughts, and I'm not sure why don't they have clapping for the defender, because it also takes time and it's good to have some sign for the ending or the sentence for the defender position.
Good point. I've never heard a real reason for that, and I don't want to just make one up, so I have to just say I don't know. But I would imagine that if it was to be introduced in the English debate, wouldn't be anything wrong with that as far as I can see.
So I mean that you're in the same position, like you're the object, like it's like two services. So one end and she shows some notification, and the second service like also when they end they like send some notification. So you agree on and you have the same protocol. Kind of for me it's quite obvious. I'm not sure like why they don't have this in the traditional method. Maybe they have some reason.
I've never even questioned it or heard the question raised, so you're the first. So look at that. That's the benefit of having money minds together, right? We have a new idea.
And the second question actually it's regarding that I'm not an English speaking person, so I'm not an English speaking person. And when I saw in the script that for example, we were talking about the definition of color, and I was accepting it. And then we are going. that is with suitable as a hue. And then the challenger asked, can you put a division of colors? So completely different topic. I mean, for the English speaking person, maybe it's the same actually when you're saying about hue. But when you already agreed on the some term like hue, then you're going to the different topic like, can you put the definition of colors? Can you put the division of hues? Or maybe you can add, do you agree that hue is division of colors? Let's say it's like a step in between these two statements. I think I'm talking about the 7th page, if you say. For me, it's kind of even disturbing because I'm not sure that I understand all the nuances of English language. So maybe for the if we develop some international debate system, maybe we can like address this issue.
Sure, and it seems like
So that's all.
thank you for your question. So just to address that, what is the deal with all these definitions and divisions, right? That's certainly going to come up as a question. And just again, to not go too deep, I'll let you guys do that in your own debates, right? When you go in debate, you can question those things. Primary colors and secondary colors, those aren't divisions of colors. Doesn't make any sense. Hues and tones are the divisions of colors. I mean, whatever. You can challenge that if you're the questioner, of course. So, but in general, the structure is a sort of hierarchy, an ontological hierarchy, a hierarchy of categories of things which exist, which are parts of our world or minds, and you start at something like form. That's equivalent to matter. You have a big umbrella group category, all material things. You have to identify, what does that even mean, form? What does it even mean, matter? So you give a definition. Okay, now what are the different varieties? What are the types of it? Right? It's a approach to it's a way of sort of doing a taxonomy to understand more clearly the topic at hand and to give again a framework, a basis that's shared in common so that you can then go into a debate about it, right? And that's fine. Then, so let's just say, okay, we accept in common that there's this presentation of these 5 types of external forms. Well, then the question comes, so if something is, an external form, we can make a statement of provision. It follows that if something is an external form, it's necessarily one of those 5 categories, one and only one, right? So then, take the subject, cell phone, take the subject, these mala beads. Follows they're one of those 5 categories of form. Well, which one? Is this a color? Is this a shape? Is it a tactile object? It has many properties. So you see how the hierarchy itself naturally gives rise to a lot of questions that really bring us deeper into our own experience, as a sort of mindfulness practice. Well, what am I actually experiencing when I am thinking about, when I'm interacting with these mala beads? Something I can touch, something I can see, something with color. But it also allows the mind, your analytical mind, to really start working and asking these kinds of questions. Well, geez, what is it? So that's one way to answer that question. The word division, if you get tripped up on that, that's also possible. It is kind of an odd term to use. You could think of it as just the types of something, the categories within something, genus, I don't know, whatever you want to say. But it's just it's different varieties within a larger category. Okay, now we have questions that were written, so I'll try to answer. Okay, so Betty is saying that it's hard to follow the script without the markings of challenger defender. I apologize, that's just my poor editing or poor preparation of the document. So yes, we can fix that. In language use, when you say standard matter or suitable form, Who or what is defining standard or suitable? Okay, good question. So what is suitable as form, right? Now this is another thing that may be something of a translation issue. It may be that, or it also is, I should say, that there's some philosophical meaning that needs to be drawn out through reflection and debate. But I'll just say to this question that Tutin Jimbala, who is a translator, well-renowned translator of Tibetan into English, he actually has rendered this definition of form, that which is suitable as form, he has rendered it in different terms in English as that which is capable of materiality. So that which is capable of materiality as another way of talking about suitable as form, another translation, I should say, another rendering. So you can just think of it that way. Suitable.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I guess it's one thing that's challenging, I guess, still for me and maybe for others as well, that it seems a bit circular. I mean, how much have you learned from this definition, right? So also that which is suitably described as a you, well, I guess that provides a bit more information, but that which is suitable as form is like, well, have you said anything?
Yeah,
So is
so
there a reason why they have these kind of definitions?
Certainly there's a reason, and I don't want to be too presumptuous to say that I have the one and only reason. I can offer some thoughts about it. One is that it itself gives fertile ground for debate. That Betty's question is excellent. Who gets to decide what's suitable as form? Is the form of a tiger in my dream suitable as form? Is the form of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which I imagine to exist but which don't, suitable as form? Right? So it leaves you those questions. Or even is space suitable as form? I mean, color even, right? Is color really suitable as form? I mean, doesn't really have a particle. It's like light, right? It's just like a wavelength of light. So how suitable really is that as form? So yeah, it gives rise to questions in itself. Another aspect of it is just how again, this is one of those areas where separating the debate format from the epistemology, psychology, and ontology are going to be difficult, but it has to do with the epistemology and psychology side of things, which is it's a theory about how cognition works when it comes to developing um, uh, proficiency in a language and understanding the relation between what's referred to as definiendum and then its definition, or a definition and its definiendum. So form is a definiendum, that which is suitable as form is a definition, and the way that the human mind, or sentient being's mind, connects those two together, is related to why definitions are posited the way they are in this system. That's a topic of deep exploration in the system, and I don't want to spend too much time going into that because there's a lot of aspects to that. But I would just ask though, but another thing you can do is just say, well, I don't really like that definition of form, doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, posit a better one. So now you find the better definition of form and see if you can. And that's another way you can use it, right? So I hope that's
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before, and I think one thing I found very insightful at that time was when you were trying to come up with a different definition of color in terms of um, light waves and frequencies and stuff, and it turned out to be very tricky to actually come up with something good, and that all had lots of flaws. So yeah, this is actually a great exercise to try to come up with a good definition of what those kind of things that we all have an intuition for. But
right. And I'll just say there was, I'm sorry, I'm trying to, it's not the time to do it, but the actual dictionary definition in English dictionaries, I'm trying to look, but there's like a dozen there. So, but there is one that's given that's very similar to simply like, what's known as hues or something like that, right? So, or yeah, so maybe it's not all that. No, maybe that's just the most reasonable way, a reasonable way to just talk about color. Okay, those things which we call hues, right? Okay, is the debate, this is now the next question by Yeshe. Is the debate driven by the responses, or is it driven by a point the challenger questioner is trying to make? Okay, good question. So it can be driven by both, by either, I should say. So the challenger sometimes will really just be into what the defender is asserting and really just completely go into it and just take what they're saying and continue to do that, continue to take it, draw out consequences from it. If that's true, what you're saying, then it must also be, if A, B, C, D, D, E, F, G. So that's one thing. And then other times they may want to, again, we do have, even in the monastery where we have some 25 years and roughly 2 to 5 hours a day, depending on the season, to practice debate, we still have time limits and a lot of interesting material to discuss. So you may want, the questioner may want to not go that route and just say, okay, we have this stuff we're studying, we have to talk about that, put that other stuff aside. I'm going to just keep questioning you on this other point. It's, again, in the challenger's hands that they have that decision to make. And of course, you could switch over the course of, you just say you have an hour segment, half-hour segment. You can do half and half, right? Half time being a challenger, half time being the defender. Could you please explain the term counting debate? America, could you? I think you coined that term, I think. That's a nice term.
No, I didn't. Actually, this whole distinction was not my invention. Obviously, it was that of I was given it by the science monks that I'm working with at the monastery. But I think what it comes from is that you're basically enumerating these lists that you've also probably practiced just outside, right? So what are the divisions of colors, what are the divisions of forms, and then you come up with whole lists and you're sort of counting them in a way.
Thank you, and thank you for clarifying, because I did state that mistakenly. That I've never heard that in the system and classroom it being referred to with exactly that terminology, but certainly it makes sense too, and that's exactly right. You're enumerating and counting the different aspects of a certain topic. Could we please go through 3 or 4 examples of changing the question? Yes, so that's the next. So we're focused on the counting debate, and that's why we haven't gone into logic debate yet. So that's the next thing to do, and we have 10 minutes still left in this session. So why don't we do that? Could we please, so the question by Damsha Dreme, which I think everyone can see because it's to everyone. Could we please go through 3 or 4 examples of changing the question from colloquial form to a statement of pervasion? Could we please go through 3 or 4 examples of changing the question? Oh, that's the same thing. Good. Okay. So now if we bring up our document again, and let me make sure there are no more questions. I'm sorry. Oh, it looks like we have. Okay, let's take one more. Sorry, Vitaly, can you wait till next session, or you could even write it in the Slack and we'll get to it. Okay, now that hand has gone down too. Okay, well, if you have a question and you haven't asked one yet, you are free to. Just come on up. I see one hand going up. Rimpy. I hope I'm saying that right. Okay, Rimpy, if you want to come up, just come up whenever you can, and I'll keep going until you do. Okay, so I'll screen share it. Okay, here we are.
Hello? Can you hear me? Sorry, thank you. So I am just a bit confused, Venerable. Actually, when you were asking these questions and about the definitions. So you just mentioned that we can posit our own definitions if we have a better definitions.
Right. So once again,
So,
the basic rule is that as a defender, you want to try and toe the party line. The phrase meaning that you want to basically agree to the textbook presentation of whatever topic you're in. Now, that does benefit you in the sense that even if you don't agree with it in your heart, in your mind, it challenges you to then put a different cap on, put a different lens on, and think from another perspective. Okay, well, why would someone think that's true? And I'll try and hold their standpoint. So you're almost acting, mentally taking on someone else's perspective. As a questioner, though, you have the freedom to say whatever you want. So you hear they give you the textbook definition, and you say, "Ha, that's ridiculous." No, suitable as form. What does that even? Suitable as what form? No, you just repeated the same word in your definition. It doesn't make any sense. You didn't define anything. So you can definitely do that, and I'm trying to recognize that as this is something where we're not trying to study any particular textbook, then even the defender, yeah, we have some freedom for this particular context. For you guys here, there's more freedom than, you know, traditionally would be allowed. So is
but
that
I
clear?
but I think whatever little we learned about debate is, I think the definitions we can't change until and unless either we quote somebody like a very great scholar and some book or some scholar's name we have mentioned that this has quoted like on this book by this scholar.
Mm,
Whatever I learned is it's a very hidden phenomena which we can't realize. So these definitions are made by a very great scholars, and because they have put it like this, either though we have to put it the name of that scholar or the book that that's what I my thought is. So
okay,
you have to
sure.
actually, if, for example, if you want to play a game, so you have some set rules to play
Mhm.
it properly. So that's what my thought is. So I
So
got confused. If you can change the definitions, then it will become very difficult to move on.
right, that's what I'm trying to say. So you want to have some shared framework so that you can
Okay.
carry a debate forward. But the question is, what is the question you actually want to debate? You can take the definition of form as suitable as form as the main question, and you can spend your
Okay.
30 minutes debating that one question. So you lay out,
Okay.
you go through this, hierarchy of ontology of matter form, and then you go through it and you say, okay, we did the review, we have all the terms and definitions memorized, that's good. Now you say, wait a minute, you said that suitable as form is the definition of form, that which is suitable as form. I want to challenge that. I don't think it makes
Okay.
sense. I have a good reason why it's not. And you can posit a different definition. You can posit one that a different scholar has said. You can take Thupten
Okay.
Jinpa's translation of that which is capable of materiality. You
Oh,
can look in a physics textbook and take a definition. You can look in a uh, you know textbook of philosophy from another tradition. You can.
got
This is all free. So again, we're doing something new here. Not that there's never been anyone debating in English, but it seems like
got
most of those instances and communities have mostly more or less done direct transfer, direct translation, more or less transfer of what's in the Tibetan text just into a new language. But what we're trying to do here is allow for people who don't necessarily, care for or aren't, they're not holding on to the need to represent a certain tradition, or they may have a different tradition, but we're just trying to give the debate skill. So how are we going to do that for someone who doesn't really care what Nagarjuna said or what Vasubandhu
yeah.
said, right? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And it's great that there are many of you who have experience, again, who have experience with debate. And now we only have a few minutes, so I'm going to just So there aren't any more hands up, and I want to just allow these last few minutes to get to that question by way of going now into the logic debate. So I have my share screen, and we are now going to a logic debate question. So, well, we really only have like 3 minutes. I know time goes quickly, but this is good. We're staying on schedule. If you look at the schedule, this is what we were supposed to be doing. So, the question in colloquial form. So, this is let's just think about this, and I'll ask you guys, instead of just me giving examples, how you would translate a question in colloquial form into debate form. And it could be either into a statement of pervasion, or it could be into a thesis statement as well. So we look at this list of things and it says cloud color is a secondary color. What? The color of cloud? Are all colors of clouds secondary colors? That I don't buy it. So that's your question, right? That's the doubt. Are all cloud colors really secondary colors? So how do you word that in the statement of pervasion? It follows that if something, and you can use X here if you're more sort of inclined to think about variables, mathematical equations, if that's just if you're familiar with that. A lot of people see the first sign of a mathematical equation and their brain just shuts off. So I think for those people, it's better just to use the words. But it follows that if something is the color of cloud, it is necessarily a secondary color. Okay, so that's the statement. Now, what would be another one? So what if someone wants to ask about, I mean, yeah, like this voter fraud thing is something that a lot of people I think were somewhat aware of. Even if you're not in America, you probably heard about it going on. Of course, it probably goes on in other countries. I don't even know, but it's the idea was one of the ideas was that mail-in ballots, meaning ballots cast by writing them out, and you get a ballot in your home, you write it out, put it in an envelope, send it back to the town hall, to your town. So those were fraudulent. Mail-in ballots were fraudulent. So you could say, well then, is every mail-in ballot fraudulent? There's not a single one that was like validly, legally cast? So how would you word that? And I'll just wait for someone's hand. The first person hand to raise, please answer it. How would you word that in debate language? Okay, Lukash, please come on up. Let's see, can you come on the stage? Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So it follows that if it is a mail-in ballot, it is necessarily invalid or fraudulent.
Good. It follows if it is, and you can say it, right? I was saying something. You can say it follows if it is a mail-in ballot, it is necessarily fraudulent. Good. So I think that really does bring us to the end, and I do want to honor that we have a lot of sessions and people who must have other things to do. And of course, we have other materials. We are asking you to watch this video with the scholars that we've invited as guest speakers. Now we're breaking their all of the dialogues we've had with them, we're breaking up into videos and putting them out each day. So there's one of those. Please watch that before tomorrow. And before we go, though, we do have to explain what we'll do during the debate session. So for people in the US, that's going to be today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. For people in India, Europe / Asia, wherever some people are in Singapore. So then you'll join tomorrow morning. I'm not sure for you what time it will be, but anyway, tomorrow. So what are we going to do? We're going to meet again.
Well, actually, for these sessions, also, if you prefer to do the American session, if you're in Europe or whatever, feel free. I think that's also totally fine.
Totally, please. Thank you so much for mentioning that, because it's probably, for India, it might be a bit late, but if you're in Europe and you can come that would be 7 p.m. for some, whatever part of Europe you're in, you can figure that out, but 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please do join then if you're able to. So what we'll do is we'll again meet in this hall at the beginning, and we'll just go through what it was in this document with this debate script, and then we'll just look at some of the questions that are here at the end. So we can practice first the script itself, and you can replace, right? So the script here has the definition of form, definition of color, has the divisions of shape, primary color, secondary color. We'll move through the rest of them. Again, just to get used to going through these hierarchies. So you can go into the sounds, the odor source, right? Sound source, smell source, taste source, tactile object source. So move it, you can vary it up for yourselves. We're going to do it first. We're going to do a group debate, and then we're going to do one-on-one debate. So first we'll have groups of people, depending on how many show up. It might be everyone in one group. We might break it up into 2 groups. But anyway, first just come into this room. We'll go over the same material that we just started going through, but we'll just have more time to actually debate it, and then start, using your own logic and actually starting to debate after we have a little more practice with the format. And so meet here, and if you're in Europe, Marika and Stefan will help to introduce and get people into groups. If you're in America, I'll do it, and if you're in India, again, Kechok will do it. Venerable Kechok. Okay, so sorry to keep you. We went a couple minutes over, and please again write with any more questions, and have a great afternoon. See you soon.
Thank you so much, and see you soon indeed.
Thank you all.
There's one last note in case everything used by all the terms and how they fit together in the documents. There's a map in the courtyard where you can try to orient yourself very graphically and physically. Hope it helps. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Stefan. Amazing work with the production of materials and the visual, the world we're in. It's wonderful. So see you. Okay.